Jai Hind. Myself, Shikha Agarwal, Assistant in of Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. So, today we are going to discuss about one subject of artificial intelligence for referring to the BTech ME students, in which the subject code is KME062. And in this lecture today, I am going to discuss about the introduction of artificial intelligence. Why I am going to talk about the introduction of artificial intelligence? Because when I'm talking about the mechanical branch students, initially they should know the basic concepts about AI, because they are that particular unit or that particular subject is new to these students. So we need to talk about the introduction to an AI, right? So after that, now then we are going to discuss about the syllabus. This is the complete whole syllabus for the mechanical students, out of which here I'm going to discuss about the introduction to artificial intelligence. When they know about the introduction, when they know what is AI, why we are using it, what all are the parameters, from where the foundation comes, then only they will able to understand the rest of the topics. So that's why we have covered the initial topic, that is an introduction to artificial intelligence. Now, after that, first of all, I will suggest the certain books so that they can refer these books for studying more and more about the topic. So in this lecture, I have already covered the certain PPT slides in which I have covered the unit through this book. I have covered this book, that is a Stuart Russell. You can use this book as a for artificial intelligence. Now, after that, now before we start with the basics, so first of all we should know what is an artificial intelligence, what these terms mean, from where this term comes, right? So basically when I'm talking about the term artificial intelligence, this term is the branch of a computer science, right, in which we are making that type of a computers which can act like a human being. हम एक ऐसा कंप्यूटर साइंस का फील्ड में बात करते हैं. एआई हमारी एक कंप्यूटर साइंस की एक ऐसी फील्ड है जहां पर हम लोग एक कंप्यूटर्स को डिजाइन करते हैं. वी हैव टू डिजाइन दस कंप्यूटर्स इन विच दे बिहेव लाइक अ ह्यूमन बीइंग. लाइक ह्यूमन बीइंग कैन मूव, so we can use the systems. How the human being think, then we are talking about the artificial intelligence. Basically, this term was coined in 1956 by the name of the scientist, that is a John McCarthy, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So we should know from where this term comes, right? Then after that, I'm going to talk about the definition of an artificial intelligence. You can see I have written the three definitions from the different ways so that you can understand in a better way. First of all, when I'm talking about an artificial intelligence, it refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines that are programmed to think like humans and mimic their actions. Whenever I'm talking about its term, what we are doing it in the case of AI, we are generating the human beings. We are creating the computers. So in this case, we both are comparing to both the terms, like how the human being behaves or how the computer will work. We are doing the programming into that manner of the system or the machine so that it can act like a human being, right? Simultaneously, when we are talking about the second term, AI is the study of how to make computers make the things which at the moment people do better. Whatever the way the people are doing in a way, suppose we are giving up certain problems to the students or certain problem to the human being, right? So in that situation, into that problem, how to solve that problem by that individual. So similarly, we have to design or we have to prepare those types of computers so that they can enact or they can mimic their actions of a human beings. Now, when I'm talking about the AI, it is also the science and the engineering so that we can develop or we can make the intelligent machines, especially by doing their intelligent computer programs, right? It is related to the similar task by using the computers so that we can understand the human intelligence, right? Then after that, when I'm talking about the artificial intelligence, You can see that this word is comprises of two words, artificial and intelligence, right? When I'm talking about then artificial, it means we are generating a artificial like a human being, right, through that computer system or through that device. But how intelligently we can enact into that situation, how we have to do the programming, we are going to talk about the term intelligence. When I'm talking about the term intelligence, intelligence means basically it is the ability to learn, to understand the things and to think about the given problems so that we can solve the problems. Whenever we are having a certain problems, how we have to enact into that situation, what all are the things we need to learn. Suppose, for example, if I say you have to do the programming in C language, right? So into that situation, what happens? The human thinks, should I know the C language or not? Do we know what compiler I need to use, how we have to execute the program, and so on. So these all are the certain problems they are facing. Into the same situation, simultaneously they have a capacity to learn. In this situation, how we have to work onto the system. So similarly, in this case, they have to apply their learning skills, they have to understand the problem, and by the given problem, they have to understand or they have to think about the solution to that particular problem. So in particular, we can say intelligence is the ability to solve the novel problems. Novel means new problems. Basically, when I'm using the word novel problems, it means new or not reassembling something formerly known or used. It means we are imposing or we are posing into the novel problems. Whatever the new technologies are coming into the marketplace, we are more focusing onto those problems. Intelligence is also the term which have an ability to act rationally. When I'm using the word rationally, it means I'm talking about there are the certain reasons or logical means, right? Suppose we are talking about to solve the mathematical problems, so we should know the reasons, right? Or we are talking about the reasoning questions, so we are talking about the reasoning concepts. That is why intelligence is also says that we have an ability to solve the problems rationally. Simultaneously, we are talking about reasoning and logical means, right? And the most important thing is whenever we are building a computer systems or devices or machines, so into that case, whatever the intelligence we are talking about, it is having an ability that it can act like a humans. How the human beings work, how they interact, in the similar manner it works, right? Then after that, we are going to talk about the overall giving a definition for the artificial intelligence. Basically, artificial intelligence in which the computers with the ability to mimic or to duplicate the function of the human brain. जिस तरीके से एक ह्यूमन का ब्रेन काम कर सकता है, similarly we have to generate that computer system. Now if I'm talking about the hardware artificial intelligence system, how we have to establish that particular system. In that case, we have to talk about the peoples, we have to talk about the procedures, and simultaneously when I'm talking about the hardware implementation, or we are talking about the systems, right, in which the machine enacts like a computer, human being. So into that case, what we all requires, we require the people, how they think about it. We should know how the procedures, or you can say we know the programming languages. We know the hardware, what all hardwares we require to install into the system. Simultaneously, their softwares, data, and the knowledge needed to develop the computer systems and the machines that demonstrates the characteristics of an intelligence, right? Now, before that, when I'm talking about the intelligent behavior, how we can say that this particular system intelligently handle the things, how we are giving the solutions to the given problems. So into that case, we should know what is an intelligent behavior, how it will enact. So first of all, when I'm talking about the intelligent behavior, we have learned from our experience. Whenever we are having a certain problems, we always learn the most of the things from our experience. Again and again, when we are refining ourselves, so we are getting an experience, and after that experience, we are very much learning phase that we can understand how to solve that particular problem. After getting an experience, right? So we have to apply our knowledge. Whatever the knowledge we have gained from the experience, so we have to apply that knowledge also, right? And simultaneously, if I'm talking about a large and a complex problems, suppose we have a large and a complex problem occurs. Into that situation, how we have to handle that situation? Either we have to break into the subparts, or we have to handle it in a complete manner. How we have to handle that complex situation? So this is also the term for intelligent behavior. Then after that, we have to solve the problems whenever the information, or you can say the important part of that particular information is missing. We can say whenever we are having a data and into that case some information is missing. So that particular information is very important for us to understand the things. So into that case, if we are having a missing data, how we can handle the problems, how we can solve the, or how we can rectify our parameters, right? Then after that, if I am working onto that particular system, we have to determine out of the given data what is important for us and what is not important for us, right? Suppose we are if I'm talking about reading research papers, suppose I'm reading 10 research papers, and out of that 10, we all generally, when we are reading it, we came to know that what is important part for me to use for my work or not. So similarly, whenever we have learned a lot of things from our experience, so we came to know that what is important to determine our conclusion or to determine our observations, right? Then after that, suppose a new situation comes. These all are the parameters when I'm talking about the old situation, or we are learning into the experiences phase. Now suppose a new situation comes. Into that particular situation, what you will do, how you will react, how you will handle that situation, right? Suppose if I give you a puzzle, right, 8 by 8 puzzle if I give you, or traveling salesman problem I can give you. So into that case, suppose this is a new situation, you have never used, you have not listened about that situation. So into that situation, how you will handle it? मैं इस problem को solve कैसे करूँगा, right? So into that particular new situation, we have to talk about how we have to react quickly and simultaneously we have to react correctly. हम quickly के साथ साथ we have to react what is the conclusion, so that we can get the desired output. Simultaneously after that, this is all about the text we are talking about, or numerical values or reasoning data. But if we are having a symbols or we are having a visual images, how we need to understand it? What is the meaning of those symbols? We have to process it. We have to manipulate those symbols, whether it is useful for me or not, right? So we have to talk about understanding the visual images, and simultaneously we have to talk about process and manipulating the symbols. Now after that, whatever the human beings think, we are always thinking in a different manner, right? How much more and more creative I can think from the rest of the people, how we can generate an imaginative word. So that is why we have to be very creative and imaginative. And simultaneously in the last, we have to use the heuristics approach, how we can heuristically handle the data. So these all are the terms when I'm talking about the intelligent behavior. Now after that, this is the basic about what is an AI, right? This is the basic term, what is an artificial intelligence, how it works, how we have to generate the artificial intelligence, why we require this term, from where it comes, this particular terms. Then after that, we are going to talk about the different types of an AI. Basically, I have already told you, then when I'm talking about the artificial intelligence, we have to generate a system, or we have to make the computer system which acts like a human or mimic their actions, right? So AI deals with the thinking or their acting, right? So in this case, we are going to discuss about how it is being thinking and how it will act into the particular situation. First of all, I'm going to talk about a thinking manner, right? When I'm talking about a thinking, it means I'm talking about humanly or rationally also. Why? Because everything is to be based on a reasoning, right? So we have to talk about how the human being will think and how we have to enact into that situation rationally. So first of all, we are going to talk about thinking. Thinking humanly, cognitive model, try to get inside our minds. So into that case, what we are doing it, whatever the problems comes to us, what we are trying to, we have to put it into the mind and we are trying to solve that situation. We have indulged into that problem a lot and we are trying to do solutions. Into that solutions, what we are trying to do it, we have to conduct an experiments with the people, try to reverse engineer how we can reason, learn, remember, and we have to predict the systems so that we can solve the problems in the same way how the humans can do, right? And simultaneously, if I'm talking about the rationally, we have to think rationally. Rationally means we should know the reason behind it. We have to use the logical concepts behind it. In this case, we need not to worry about the uncertainty and dealing with the complexity. Whatever the terms is being coming, we have to need not to worry about that. We have to simply use the logical reasoning behind that concept, right? Then after that, if I'm talking about its acting, right? So we have to generate those type of systems in which they can act like a humans. Like you can talk about the robots, right? Or you can talk about the Turing test approaches, right? But similarly, if I'm talking about acting in the case of rationally, the study of rational agents. Here we are going to discuss about the intelligent agents, how those agents work. What is the difference between the different types of agents, which type of an agent we can use into which category, right? So into that case, we have to use or we should know the concept of rational agents, in which we have to talk about the agents in which they have to the agents that maximizes the expected value of their performance, in which they can measure the given what they currently know about the system. Then after that, if I'm talking about thinking humanly, right, there are the certain questions comes into my mind, right? So why in the previous slide we have mentioned that thinking humanly, it means I'm talking about a cognitive modeling. So we should know what is to mean by the term cognitive modeling. In the case of cognitive modeling, we can say thinking humanly means we are trying to understand and we have to generate that particular model how the human mind works. In the similar manner, we are trying to generate that type of a model so that it can work or it can enact in the similar manner how the human being minds work, right? So there are at least the two possible routes that human use to find the answer of that particular question. We reason about it to find an answer. That particular term is called as an introspection. In the case of introspection, what we are doing it, we are conducting an experiments to find the answers, drawing upon the scientific techniques to conduct controlling experiments, and we have to find the measured values. So on the basis of that only, we can do the introspection for the particular thinking model, right? The field of the cognitive science focuses on a model how the people think. Basically, when I'm using the word cognitive sciences, so basically we are focusing more on to how the people think about the system. Now, see, you can see the one example. If I'm talking about acting humanly, so we have used the example for the Turing test. Now you can see, if I'm talking about the Turing test, we all are aware about it, that the name of the scientist is Alan Turing. They have computing the machinery and their intelligence in the year 1950, in which they have generated the Turing test into the system. Now, in this case, we have to talk about the answers to the responder or system and so on. So you can see, suppose we are having a computer which is being enacting as a player A, and if I'm talking about a human responder who is enacting as a player B, and there is a certain interrogator who is playing as an actor player C between them. So in this thing, they have generated the one kind of a Turing machine in which whatever the question comes from the whosoever wants to communicate. Suppose if I say the question comes from the computer system player A, right? First of all, it comes to the interrogator. It will work into the machinery system and then it will respond to the human responder. Then after that, and vice versa conditions come. So this is the way how they are enacting into the system and how the questions is to be answered. Now if I'm talking about thinking rationally, basically we have to represent their facts about the world in the case of logically. Whatever the facts we are giving through the system or the word, so whatever the facts we are giving it, we have to give the logic behind the system by using the logical inferences as the basic for the reasoning about these facts. So I can give you a very short example. Suppose if I am talking about the truth tables, there is a logical behind the gates, OR gate, AND gate, and so on. So suppose if I say, if I am talking about the negation gate, so there is a logical inference into that system. There is a fact between to that system. So we have to use that approach only, right? So into similarly, we can use a very useful approaches of AI, which is already being based on the certain theorems. But there are certain limitations that does not account for an agent's uncertainty about the world, and it has no way to represent their goals, cost, etc., important aspects for the real world environment, right? So there is the certain limitations that they can represent their goals in the terms of costing. There is no way how we can generate an accounts into the world and the system. Now acting rationally, if I'm talking about acting rationally, right? If I'm talking in the case of acting rationally means acting to achieve the one's goal. Whatever we are understanding, we are giving the one's belief, and we have to understand about the world, and we have to achieve that particular target. In the case of acting rationally, there is always an agent works. Basically, the work of an agent is that it can act rationally with respect to its goal. For example, if you are playing certain games, then agent that is being designed to play a game should make the moves that increases the chances for winning, right? So whatever happens, whenever we are trying to play any certain games, into that games, what happens? We are generally used to try that I will be the winner. We never think that I will lose the game, right? Whatever the steps we are moving it, we are trying to win that particular game. So this is what the intelligent agent works. In the case of an intelligent agent also, it will work for the particular goal so that we can achieve the one goal. Into that case, we should know what is an agent. Basically, agent is that particular system that perceives an environment and acts within that particular environment. First of all, agent एक system है जो एक environment create करेगा, perceive करेगा. Then after that, into that environment, how it will enact. Fine. For example, I can give you, suppose we are playing a tic-tac-toe game, right? And there are the two players, those who are playing to it. So suppose the first player moves here, the cross symbol, right? Now, out of the 9 positions, the next player will have only the 8 positions, so that they will try to win himself or herself, right? So similarly, into those 8 positions, they are trying to put a 0 onto that location where they have increased the chances for winning the game, not for losing the game, right? Now, in the case of logical approaches, we have to use to help the finding the best action. But there are also other ways. Sometimes we used to play for winning the game, or sometimes we want, I will also not win and I will not allow him to win also, right? So these are the certain situations in which we need to enact. Now, achieving so-called perfect rationally, we have to make the best decision theoretically possible, but is not usually possible due to the limited resources into the real-time world. What we are trying to do it, sometimes we are trying to generate the perfect rational. Perfect rational means koi problem nahi hai, nothing is there, we have to take the best outputs, best decisions into the system. But due to the certain limitations in the terms of resources like time, memory, computational power, or there are certain uncertainties happens into the environment, due to which we are not able to generate the perfect rational. The trick is to do the best with the information and the resources you have. Basically, we have to talk about moving to represent in the field of AI, from optimizing or early AI to satisfying AI. In spite of doing the things optimizically, we have to talk about the satisfactory things in the case of AI. Now, if I'm talking about the intelligent systems in our day-to-day life, suppose we are having a post offices. Through the post office, you can generate an automatic address recognition systems and they can easily sort their mails. We are already having a banking transactions. In the case of banking transactions, they are having a automatic check readers. They are having signature verification systems. They are generally sending the customer services in the form of loans applications. They can easily generate the loan application classification for as a customer services. They can automatically generate the voice recognition. If I'm talking about in the terms of web, whenever we are doing the web surfing, in the case of they are generally used to identify the genders, age, their locations automatically. And simultaneously, they also automatically fraud detection. Sometimes they generate a fraud detection also. There are the certain digital cameras also there into the intelligent systems, like they can easily find the face detection and they can more focusing into the system. Now we are having a computer games. There are the certain types of intelligent characters we have generated. As I've given you an example for tic-tac-toe, and queen problem, traveling salesman problem. There are a lot of problems we can solve, or these are the certain games we are designed through the intelligent systems and we can use into the day-to-day life. So these are the examples for the intelligent systems into our life. Now, after that, we are going to talk about the foundations of AI, from where this particular terms defining how they are rapidly changing or how their impact is being generated into the real world life. So into that case, the foundation for understanding this technology says whenever we are defining the artificial intelligence, we have to describe how its impact is being generated rapidly for changing the world. How we are moving from our simple life towards an AI life, right? So we are simplifying the field of AI into the 5 core research areas and bringing each research area to life with a particular examples, right? So first of all, before we start these 5 core areas, we should know what is an AI. So into that case, now we have already discussed that artificial intelligence is basically a machine or a model or a system which can enact like a human and mimic their actions, right? But when I'm talking about a proper definition in the terms of a computer system, sorry. So into that case, we are talking about the artificial intelligence, that it is an automation of activities which we normally attribute to human thinking and rationally, in which we can do the problem solvings, we can make a certain decisions and we can learn a lot of things, right? Then AI lives with the intersection of many classic disciplines. There are the certain disciplines like philosophy, neuroscience, behavioral economics, computer science and mechanical engineering, right? If so, because I'm targeting my mechanical engineering students, so I can say AI works when they generate robots. What do you mean by the term robots? They are the like in human beings. That is why we are focusing on robots. Now these are the 5 total fields where we are going to talk about the artificial intelligence. In 1995, classical artificial intelligence, the name is Stuart Russell and George Peterson works there, that they have broken the complete field of artificial intelligence into the 5 distinct research areas originating from the total Turing test. They have converted, the first is machine learning, expert systems, computer vision, natural language processing and robotics, because they have covered the various disciplines as we have studied now, that it includes the various disciplines: philosophy, neuroscience, behavioral economics, computer science and mechanical engineering and so on. So that is why by using all these terms or by using all these subjects in form, So what their field of AI is being converted? They have converted into the 5 distinct research areas. So one after another we'll discuss into this lecture. First of all, we are going to talk about what do you mean by the machine learning. Basically, machine learning is that science for empowering the machines to make the decisions without a human intervention, in which we have to interpret the patterns in the form of images, sounds, structural data or multidimensional areas and so on. So into that case, we are using the machine learning. In the case of machine learning, we can talk about the definition that machine learning is the science of empowering machines to make the decisions without human intervention. This subject discipline forms the backbone of AI, enabling the computers to learn and interprets the patterns in images, sounds and structured data by using the multidimensional arrays. When I'm talking about ML, it is being categorized into the 4 categories: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning and reinforced learning. First of all, we are going to talk about the supervised. When I'm using about the word supervised, it means it is already labeled. Whatever the data we are using, it is already labeled. You train the machine by using the given data which is already being labeled, which is already tagged. And by using that correct tagged data, we are getting the correct answer. So we are talking about the supervised learning. The next we are going to talk about the unsupervised learning. Unsupervised means we are not having any supervision. We don't need any supervision. The data is not labeled. So into that case, we are talking about the unsupervised learning is a machine learning technique where we do not need to supervise the model. Instead, you need to allow the model to work into its own discover information because they are having the unlabeled data. So that particular system model works on their own. Whatever the situation comes, they will handle itself. We are not giving any supervisor to that particular model. The next we are going to talk about the semi-supervised. This particular approach is that approach which is the combination of supervised and unsupervised. Some part of the data is already trained. So we can say we are having a labeled data, and some part of the data is unlabeled, or you can say that is being unsupervised, right? So semi-supervised falls between supervised and unsupervised data learning, right? And the last we are going to talk about the reinforcement learning. If I'm talking about reinforcement learning, basically this is a area of a machine learning in which we have to take a suitable actions to maximize the rewards in a particular situation, right? It is basically employed by the various softwares and machines to find the best possible path or a behavior in a specific situation. In this case, we are using the reinforcement learning. These are the examples in the case of supervised learning. Suppose if I am talking about the classification algorithm in the case of supervised learning, you can see these are the 2 categories of duck, but this is not a duck, right? So on the basis of that, we have to generate the predictive model that this particular image is a duck. So we are having a labeled data. We have already labeled that this is a duck, this is duck, not duck, and so on. We have already mentioned the data. We have already labeling the data. When I'm talking about unsupervised, this is in the case of unsupervised, we have not labeled any animal, right? On our own way. So if we say like, ये मुझे duck भी लग रही है, मुझे नहीं भी लग रही है, right? So this is type of a situation in which we have to apply the clustering algorithm, and we have to make the clusters that these 3 seems to be similar and these 2 looks to be different. So in this case, we have to talk about the unsupervised learning. The next we are going to talk about the reinforcement learning. In the case of reinforcement learning, there is a certain agent and an environment is being created in which whenever the agent works, it always generates the certain actions onto the environment, and whatever the state is being generated, it is being reported to the agent. Sometimes it is being rewarded in the conditions or sometimes it is not. So that is called reinforcement learning, right? Then after that, we are going to talk about expert systems. Basically, expert systems are designed to solve the complex problems, in which we are talking about the reasoning through the bodies of a knowledgeable person, in which they are having a pros and cons both. They are generally using a if then else rules, right? So that is called as an expert system. Basically, expert system is a computer system that emulates the decision making ability of a human expert. There are the two general expert systems are Dendral and Mycin. These are the two expert system which was initially designed in the medical field. Suppose, for example, I can talk about non-expert user. I'm not aware about the medical lines. I'm not aware about my problems, right? And this is a person who is an expert into that field. Or you can say this is a doctor, right? This is a patient. Fine. Into that case, first of all, it will put a certain inputs. I'm having a so-and-so problems and so on. So, if first of all, it comes to the user interface, then by using that user interface, they are applying the certain rules and knowledge, and on the basis of that, it will generate the knowledge. So, this is the knowledge base. Means like if you go to the pediatrician, the child problems you discuss with your doctors. Similarly, the expert system works. Whatever the inputs you will give, it will put onto the user interface, and by using their own knowledge into that expert field, right, applying those certain rules, it will generate you an advice how you have to work into that system. This is called as an expert system. Then after that, we are going to talk about the computer vision. In the case of computer vision, basically it is a computer science field that it works and enabling computers to see, identify and process the images in the same way how the humans can view, right? जिस तरीके से एक human being view कर सकता है, उसी तरीके से we are viewing the computer images, right? Computer vision comes from modeling image processing by using the certain techniques of machine learning, in which we have applied the machine learning to recognize the patterns for interpretation of images, right? The next, we are going to talk about the natural language processing. In the case of natural language processing, whatever the human being speaks, whenever it interacts with the computer systems, it will enact in the similar manner. That is called natural language processing. Natural language processing is a subfield of linguistics, computer science, information engineering and artificial intelligence concerned with the interactions between the computers and human languages. In particular, how the computer programs to process and to analyze the large amount of natural language data. We are talking about the natural language processing. The last field here, we are going to discuss about robotics. This is a most important part for the mechanical engineering students. Robotics is an interdisciplinary research area in which we have to generate the interface of a computer science and engineering, and we have to talk about the robotics. Basically, the goal of the robotics is to design an intelligent machine that can help and assist the humans into their day-to-day lives and keeping everyone safe. जैसे जैसे एक ह्यूमन बीइंग वर्क करता है, सिमिलरली रोबोट्स कैन वर्क. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हैव यू एवर हर्ड about the robots hotels in which the waiters are not there. There are the certain robots, they have generated the certain robots and they are serving the foods and they are taking your orders also. So this can be the example in the case of artificial intelligence. Basically, robots requires or it involves the designing, construction, operation and the use of the robots, right? So this is all about the brief introduction of robotics. Now, in this lecture, I have covered the introduction about artificial intelligence. I hope you have learned a lot of things so that you can understand the basic terms of what is artificial intelligence, what all are the research areas which we can study, what all are the parameters we should know before we start in depth about that particular subject. Thank you.